And I'm here with my man Eddie Drake of the YNOTT Foundation. And we just want to talk to you.
Somebody's sister, a brother, father, a mother, a wife or a husband, a nephew, a cousin. They're looking for a little bit of love, hey. Somebody show them some love, hey. Why not you?
Why not? Why not? Why not?
Why not you?
Why not? Why not?
Why not you?
This is the YNOTT crew, and all we asking is why not you? Come with the why not you? And on this occasion, give one donation, and you may not receive a standing ovation. Nah, your reward is so much better than that. No matter the black or a place, the feeling of giving a second chance in life, the only second chance is price is your commitment. Man, it's your compassion. You can come and give it, there's no special form of fashion. Giving a child another chance to smile, just imagine. Or you can try not to.
And when you see them, we ask them, why not you? Why not you? Woo! Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Why Not Inspire Show, where our purpose is to encourage individuals to pursue their goals and dreams and to never give up, no matter what obstacles or adversity they face in life. It is so exciting to be back amongst you all today. Our show is brought to you by the YNOTT Foundation, whose acronym is Youth Needing Organ Tissue Transplants, and we provide support to pediatric transplant patients, promote disease prevention and wellness in the community, and also advocate for individuals becoming organ and tissue donors. I'm your host, Edward, Mr. YNOTT Drake. I'm a former student athlete turned kidney transplant recipient, and now I'm the founder of this great organization and a community investor. Now I have the special pleasure to introduce my mentees and my co-hosts. They are amazing, and they're scattered throughout the country. First, I would like to pass it over to Mr. Nathan Hart to introduce yourself. Go ahead, buddy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Hart. I'm currently going to be a senior in high school, and I look forward to studying sports management in college. And I am a kidney transplant recipient. I got my kidney when I was 2 years old from my mom, and I'm going on year 16 of my kidney transplant. Once again, thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Nathan, for joining us today. Thank you for helping co-host today. Now to the man of the hour, Mr. Anthony McPhee.
Hi, I'm Anthony McPhee. I am a 2-time kidney transplant patient. My most recent transplant has lasted 11 years. I currently go to Ashland University studying theater and business. What I want to do is do acting or some sort of marketing, directing type of thing once I leave college. So yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Like I said, it's a pleasure to be a fellow co-host with you. Today, we have a action-packed show as always. This gentleman that we have today, he's been with me and the organization since day one, since the organization was founded in Columbus, Ohio. And he has gone off across the country and doing amazing things. And it's just crazy to be able to have this gentleman here today. But first, before we dive into and introduce our special guest, Nathan Hart, please give the inspirational quote of the day.
So I thought today's inspirational quote would be fitting, basically off the bio and the description of our guest. It is from Johnny Cash. You build on failure, use it as a stepping stone, and close the door in the past. Don't try to forget the mistake, but don't try to dwell in it. I picked the quote because life is full of mistakes and failures, and it's not about how you stay perfect. It's not about how you try to go back and fix what's already happened. It's about realizing that's happened, learning from your mistakes, and moving on so you don't make the same mistakes twice. So that's why I picked today's quote from Johnny Cash.
I love it, Nathan. That sounds a lot about just taking accountability for everything that happened in your life. I love that quote. And yeah, if that quote was in his bio, hey, we can't wait to hear what he has to say. But the wait is over. I mean, the wait is over. Are you ready? Sorry. Sorry, this ain't football. This ain't a football game. Sorry, I was listening to a rock band before the show. But anywho, Anthony, take it over and introduce our special guest for the day.
Okay. Alumni of University of Southern California and the Ohio State University. He has experience in and out of the music industry, working as a marketing specialist while currently working as a director of artist services at SoundCloud. Here is Jory Carver.
Woo!
Much. I need to bring you all along to every Zoom I jump on ever in life, because the intros that you guys gave are perfect. Like if I had that at the beginning of every call, I feel like people would, definitely respect it a lot more, and definitely bring me to another level as far as just, okay, this guy is really about something. But thank you again for having me. I'm honored to be here. One of my best friends, Eddie, has been doing this for a while, and anything I can do to support you guys and really drive home the mission and elevate things is something I'm glad to do. So once again, thank you for having me.
Thank you. You start off with the question of the day that we ask everyone, Anthony.
So the question of the day that we ask all our guests is, what inspired you to get to where you are today?
What inspired me to get to where I am today? Great question. Kind of caught me off guard. You got to prep me for these questions, Eddie. But I would say it was love and passion. Honestly, I was always a person who, had trouble committing to things if my heart was not in it. And I vowed from an early age to really be a person who, if and when I did something, I was going to give my all or move on. And so with that in mind, I was very keen on just finding opportunities that suited me from a passion perspective, where I got up every day and, I felt like I was really able to do something that I loved, that did not feel like work. And so a lot of where I have gotten career-wise and from a quote unquote success perspective, I have to attribute to just the love of doing it.
Awesome. Have at it, Nathan.
What are you doing currently now, and how was the path getting there to where you are today?
Ooh, a windy path, to say the least. So as Anthony mentioned, I'm a director of artist services. Basically, what I do is I do marketing in the music industry for artists and their management teams. The path to get there, I'm not sure how long we have. Eddie said about 45 minutes. I don't know that I don't want to take up too much of the call, but anything but conventional. And I think as you find people who work in my industry and most any industry, honestly, no two paths are the same. As of maybe 10 years ago, and almost 10 years ago to the day, actually, I was leaving a job that I hated, that I did not have passion for, and really felt like it was not taking me to the places that I wanted to go in life. And, it wasn't until I was able to really redirect myself and say, you know what, there's more to life. Still a young guy. There's still a lot of opportunity in front of me. That I really started to, put my best foot forward with things, just because, as I mentioned, I don't know that I was doing that up until then. I think it was a lot of kind of floating through life and, hoping for the best, but, not really being content with where I was. And because of that, I think it led me to, not necessarily finding fulfillment in anything that I was doing professionally. Personally, I love the people I was around and, the family that I had at my disposal to, just utilize in any which way. And I'm fortunate to have those people. But, from a personal development standpoint, I just didn't think I was doing necessarily what I wanted to do. So with that in mind, it was really a matter of me kind of collecting myself, figuring out what I wanted to do. And, the thing that was my why was, really related to helping artists and their teams to build their careers. That was something that I knew I was excited about, just because I'd always been a music fan prior to that. But, I didn't necessarily know what the ins and outs of it were. I was a Midwestern kid who, had no exposure to the entertainment industry. I didn't know necessarily what was what. I knew I liked music. I knew I could recognize a good song. I had like music blogs that I started back in the day that people used to go to and say, hey, you got a good ear. You always find the next up and coming artist. But I didn't know what to do with that until I really started to, invest in myself from a research standpoint and figure out what there was out there to do from a entertainment or music industry perspective. Found out that, there are multitude of ways of working with artists. And that kind of led me into looking into, okay, all right, well, there's management, there's record labels, there's touring, there's other types of services that you can offer artists that really help to advance their careers. But again, being naive of that 10, 11 years ago at this point, very much so had me in speculation mode and not really knowing where to go. So again, it was like, all right, I'm in Ohio. I know the music industry really isn't located in Ohio. So where do I got to go for that? At first it was New York. Went to New York a few times, liked it for a few days at a time, but it was too busy. I don't like the subway. So that wasn't something I wasn't going to stick with. Came out to California, I want to say about 11 years ago, and just fell in love. Saw the good and the bad of it, but really decided that it was a place that I thought I wanted to conquer, and found a way here. My way here was school. I met my now wife about a year or two before that, and she just happened to be wanting to go and get out of Ohio as well. But we didn't necessarily know what that looked like for us, but ended up both getting into University of Southern California and came out here for grad school. From there, still coming out here, still pretty naive as to how to get into the music industry and what I needed to do from there. I really just dove headfirst into it, from internships to just going around the city and figuring out who I could talk to and who I could network with in any capacity, doing free jobs that I thought would just give me a leg up on competition that I later found out I probably should have been getting paid for, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, and I did a lot of everything those first few years while I was in school. And then when I got to the end of my second year of grad school at USC, we had a baby. And I had to make some real life decisions. So it was a month before I was graduating. And, I was like, okay, I got a baby on the way. Music industry jobs were there, but, I wasn't locked into anything quite yet, especially one that would be able to support me and my new family. So with that in mind, I had to take some other jobs that, were not as closely related to music, but, still had some ties to it in some capacity. So I worked at a toy company, I worked in gaming, I worked in entertainment, but not necessarily music, all while just trying to develop a skill that I thought would then allow me to get into music in some capacity, and that was digital marketing. Digital marketing works in most any industry at this point. So because of that, I found out, okay, well, if I can use this skill and build it up and figure out some level of expertise in it, maybe that'll allow me to sell myself to a potential record label or management company or whatever it is in the music industry. And long story short, and I guess this has been a pretty long story to start with, but I figured out a way to get an interview with a record label. Did pretty well in the interview. The person who was interviewing me liked my shoes, and I got a job. And so from there on, it's been on, and it's been a wild ride even since being here, but it definitely has been fun and exciting. I've worked at everywhere from Warner Records, which is one of the big major labels, I guess you would say. And I've also worked in the independent record label space too, at a place called AWOL Records. And so now I found myself at SoundCloud, which is a really exciting adventure because I'm building a company. We are starting a record label, and I'm one of the first hires on that team. So it's been super exciting, very, very fulfilling, very stressful at times, but, rewarding. And, I look back to those times 10 years ago where I was not fulfilled with what I was doing. And, I can't help but be proud.
I love it. I love it. And, I'm so proud of you, of course. Back starting what you said, I always know you had a ear for music. Being with you after I got sick in college, I stayed with Jory and some other friends on campus. They accepted me into the Ohio State family, and I remember he was listening to all sorts of music. And in my opinion, he discovered Drake before Drake was who he was. We was riding around listening to this guy in the car, and he's like, man, this dude's he was talking very highly. I'm like, I was just happy that he shared my last name, but I didn't realize his potential. But you spoke into existence. So I always give you credit, in my opinion, for discovering Drake in our circle. So
We
definitely
got to use that one segment of you saying that and send it to Drake. I definitely, like I said, I'm owed some money somewhere for sure.
Definitely respect. I give respect where respect is due. But my question that I have for you is who was your role model and why? I know, yeah, who helped mold that mindset to have, and that perseverance of, like you said, you never gave up, when you hit some of these hurdles and stuff. Who did you look up to? Who was your role model? Who is your role model? Who was?
Yeah, no, I feel like I had a few role models. As I mentioned, I'm very grateful to have come up in the family that I've had, where a lot of the men and women are high achieving people who, set a standard for me and, let me know that, there is a real expectation as to what I make of myself. And so I've always looked to them as far as just inspiration, but, not only that, but, I think we all look to our older siblings or parents or, cousins and uncles and aunts to really set the standard as far as like what's expected. And, I think they were instrumental in as far as just establishing a foundation for me. I definitely had industry role models that I looked up to from afar, that were, doing cool and innovative things within the music industry and, really gave me kind of a guiding light. I looked at people like Jory Carver, who, is an acclaimed talent manager and tech investor who really, forged a unique path for himself and, worked with some incredible artists and, really has never stopped evolving as far as what his career brought about. Again, just being a music fan, I always looked at what cool artists like, Jay-Z were doing and, figuring out like how not only was he the artist that he was, but he was the businessman that he was. And, as we continue to see, he hasn't stopped. And that's from 1995 until now. He has really established every sort of, new model of business for himself as an entertainer and as a brand. And, that's been inspirational to watch. Again, really, I think I pull inspiration just from any and everybody that seems to be doing things in a progressive way, man. I look up to a person like you. I mean, I came across you again at a very interesting time in both of our lives where, we met, I think my junior year of college, and you were in a predicament to say the least, where we basically had you moved into our apartment and you were in grind mode, you were in dream mode, and seeing that and seeing what that looks like from a foundational standpoint was truly inspiring for me to just kind of see evolve. Because again, I saw you with a whiteboard in the room planning things out. I feel like a podcast was somewhere in the corner of that whiteboard, and we might not have called it a podcast at the time, but that definitely was a part of the vision. And then I feel like within a year or two, we were on the center of the Ohio State football stadium, at one of your YNOTT events, and just to kind of see that, the growth of your organization and kind of see how you've attacked it head on and continue to strive to really make a real impact in following your purposes has been nothing short of inspiration. So, again, I feel like I just pull from people who are around me, honestly. And I think obviously, again, you have those people who are at a distance, but it's nothing better than seeing somebody that's close to you, really strive and achieve, to really give you some extra added motivation, because motivation is fleeting for sure. So having those people that, aren't necessarily too far or too difficult to grasp within reach, really is inspiring in itself.
I appreciate those kind sentiments. Like I said, that same love is reciprocated. Take it over, Anthony.
Okay. Yeah. All the stuff that you have said, since I'm in college, I'm kind of experiencing that as well, especially like with the digital marketing and the unconventional life aspects, which will probably get more unconventional once I graduate, because theater artist and just artistry in general is very unconventional living. But also, then you mentioned that you worked at AWOL
Mhm.
as a marketer and artist development. What elements of that job helped you grow as a marketer, and how did it change your perspective on how you use your marketing skills for music and digital media as it evolved now?
Great question, man. AWOL was a very interesting company. Again, this was a company I went to after leaving a major record label. So a big building, huge corporation, a lot of politics, a lot of bureaucracy, things like that. AWOL was very much so a different take on the industry, very artist friendly, very keen to just be a supporter of artists as opposed to some of the negative connotations that go along with like larger record labels and how they work with artists. So because of that, um, I was able to gain a different perspective on the industry as far as how it helped me and just gave me additional guidance around just marketing or, artist development or, the approach to media is really just the opportunity to work with a unique set of artists. I work with large artists who are selling millions of albums and getting streams and on TV and everything like that. And I also work with artists who were still living with their parents and trying to figure things out and trying to, make a way for themselves because they felt that they really had a strong talent and a passion for music. So, the empathy that came along with a lot of that was definitely inspiring on a daily basis. And it really forced me to be a little bit more creative and out of the box as far as just how I approached marketing, just because we didn't always have the huge budgets to work with. And, we didn't always have the resources that, a larger building or corporation might have. So that was a very unique experience, and it really broadened my eyes as to how the industry could look going forward, because again, it was one of those companies that was really seeking to be just different and very artist friendly. And that's something that I've carried with me going forward into my current position at SoundCloud, where it is always about the artist, it is always about the song. And once we start forgetting that, that's when things go astray, right? And so with that in mind, I've always, since early days, been an artist advocate, but even more so over the past 3 or 4 years here, very much so been into the fact of working alongside people in a way that makes me feel good when I go home at the end of the day.
That's awesome. How about it, Nathan?
What are some what are some example of artists that you've worked with, and how, if any, have inspired you in your job and in life?
You want names of artists?
Whatever you can tell
Yeah,
me.
yeah, no, definitely. So early on, I worked with artists like Wale and Sweetie and Division and another artist named IDK. I worked with artists like Snow Allegra. I worked with artists like Yeek. I've worked with artists like Lil Pump. I worked with a bunch of different types of artists that all have their own unique artist proposition and have a place in the industry. And because of that, it again has forced me to be creative, just because again, no two artists are alike. And so with that, doing the marketing for this artist, I have to think, okay, what is this artist and their fan base receptive to, and how will they respond, as opposed to other artists that I've worked with that might have a completely different type of marketing approach to them. So I think again, the biggest thing I pull from a lot of these artists is that they're all people, and which is kind of crazy to think of, just because you see a lot of these entertainers that are on TV and performing in front of thousands and thousands of people, and you're like, all right, this is like so lofty of a goal, and so unachievable by so many that sometimes you elevate them. But I've seen some of these artists at their weakest, and seeing some of them in situations where at the end of the day, they're just trying to be liked and or provide for their family or continue their careers in some capacity, or create a career for themselves. And there's a level of empathy that comes along with that, because I think at the end of the day, like, all of us are just trying to find something that we can, again, feel passionate about and, really do well with. But, I think just based off what the industry is and the nature of it being so entertainment based, I think it's easy to kind of put them in a whole different bucket of what they are aspiring for. And, however you trivialize it or however you look at it, these people are trying to impact somebody in a positive way. And, I've really kept that as a grounding principle around how I help them. And, regardless if I love the music or not, like, I know somebody does, because if not, they wouldn't be where they're at.
I love it. I love it, Jory. How you elaborated and gave us that insight, that peek behind the curtains, And my question to add on to that is, can you break down like the illusion and the reality of quote unquote being signed? A lot of people like, I'm signed, and you think that, oh, I made it, and I know one thing just from being a business owner, having an organization, that everything is not always what it appears, and we don't got to give some, it's,
Yeah.
you don't see how the sausage is made, as I say. You just,
Exactly.
the sausage tastes good coming off the grill, but you don't see how the sausage is made. And,
Yeah.
right, it's supposed to look good, right? But
No, I get it.
but yeah, can you explain to all those younger people out there who want to be the next whomever, especially in the music industry, we just say want to be the next big star in the music industry, like just getting signed and thinking, I got signed, I made it. Yeah, can you
Man,
speak to the youth, please?
the simplest thing I can say there is, all that glitters ain't gold. Like, a lot of this stuff looks great. A lot of this, like, glitz and glamour of the entertainment industry is fabricated. I can tell you, I work very, 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 very hard on a daily basis, and I'm constantly stressed out. I love it, but I'm constantly stressed out just trying to figure out, again, ways to help artists grow their career. And, we play in a very inundated industry where I think I read a report here recently that says 60,000 songs are released every single day. And so when you take that into consideration, it gives you that additional insight and perspective around what these artists are dealing with, and whether they're Beyonce and Drake, or, artists who's really just starting out, they're kind of all dealing with a lot of the same issues, albeit, Beyonce and Drake probably have an easier time with it than others, but, none of this is easy. It's very, very hard work that ends up, really rewarding those who stick with it. I think a lot of people will say, and, look at a lot of this current media landscape and see what's happening on TikTok and be like, I could do that. And this artist just blew up because they had a TikTok hit. You never know. Like, a lot of, overnight successes are a lot of years in the works. You never know how long that person was making those TikTok videos or putting out songs to get to that level where finally they had one that broke through. And then, maximizing that moment is a whole other thing in itself, just because a lot of times when you do have that TikTok hit or whatever it is, it's like, all right, well, can you do it again? Right. But, I think the industry, just from the outside looking in, like, I was all about the award shows and hanging with artists and going to after parties and taking private jets and stuff like that too. Like, I suppose that's a part of it at times, but, a lot of it really just boils down to hard work, consistency. And, I think one of the things that's not talked about enough is just being a solid person, just being a good person that people can rely on, and, that really goes to bat for artists and or, initiatives that they believe in. So with that in mind, like, if I was to give any type of insight into the industry is, I think it's not for the faint of heart. It's one of those things that, you see stuff on TV again, and I think it's certain images painted, but I would say up to 75% of that is probably not overly accurate. And to really get a true sense of what's going on, I think you have to be in it. And, I never fault people for trying it out and being like, you know what, I need to go sell jet skis in Hawaii because this music industry, this entertainment industry thing isn't working for me anymore. Because it is a grind, it is hard work, it is mentally taxing, but there are rewards that come along with it too. And the most rewarding aspect of it for me is seeing artists elevate their career and, make their dreams come true.
The key word that you said, it is a career. Like I said, in spite of everything, it's still is a career. And, and so I think a lot of people lose the career in the work aspect in the in the name of,
Yeah. No, and that's a great point, actually, man, because I think, and you've probably seen it on your side, and regardless of what it is, just from a industry standpoint, I think it's easy again to trivialize it and look at it. All right, well, they're just making some music, or they're just, just doing some theater, or, they're just doing some nonprofit work or whatever. But it is a career, and the people who are doing it well are the ones who are approaching it with a certain level of integrity and professionalism. And, you see the people like a Jay-Z, who I talked about before, like that man doesn't get that far unless he takes his craft seriously. Like, yes, there's a fun aspect to it, but that man is about his business. And because of that, he's been able to go to the heights he's gone to. And, he won't continue to stop because he treats his present day like his first day, which is admirable to say the least, because it's very difficult to stay that consistent. But with anything in life, whether it's entertainment industry or you're a doctor or a lawyer, like just being able to get up, be inspired, and treat things as though it's your first day on the job is essential.
I love it, Jay. You're gonna have to come on our show again. We're trying to get a larger budget so we could drop some bombs, because you dropping you dropping that heat, but we got a small budget at this point. But you dropping some heat. Next time on the show, you're gonna be bombs dropping all shows, like boom, boom, boom. But I think it's Nathan, your turn, right? Go ahead, Nathan. I believe so.
So how does marketing in the music industry work? Do you get like reached out to when someone wants to make an album and then you have to market that, or like a tour, or how does it work really?
Yeah, good question. So, I appreciate the thoughtful question that you guys have came with, because sometimes I lose sight that people don't do this all day, every day like I do. So because of that, they don't necessarily know how a lot of it works. And I still am figuring it out, to be honest, because it changes all day, every day. And things that were relevant a year ago are no longer relevant now. But typically how I work with artists, again, I work at, for lack of a better word, a record label. Those artists who we find through research and just having good ears and things like that are typically signed to a record label. At that point, a team is built out around them at the record label, and they help to market their songs, their albums, figure out their style, figure out what and how they position themselves on social media. Sorry about that. My dog saw a mailman and he can't handle himself. Theo. But yeah, no, it's any number of things that again help to kind of grow the artist and kind of where they're at. But my day-to-day is never the same, honestly. I wish I could be like, well, my one standard day, it looks like this, but honestly, I've had 4 days this week and all 4 of them have been drastically different. But the main part of my job is again figuring out how to get an artist and their songs out to the general public. And that can involve anything from like digital marketing to radio, to getting their song in a commercial, to figuring out an influencer to use their song and really blow it up and do a dance to it. But there's again any number of ways, and it's really evolved over the last probably 3 or 4 years, faster than I've ever seen it evolve. But it's a grind constantly just to kind of figure out new ways to get them out there. But marketing as a whole in the music industry is kind of boils down to that. You're working with artists on a daily basis just to help them to get their music out. And we have a set number of artists. Yeah, we have a set number of artists that we work with. Like we don't work with 1,000 artists. We maybe work with about 20 artists or so. And like a marketing agency would work with like a product, we work with artists and just again help them to exploit their music.
Awesome. Did you want to follow up with a question, Nathan, or no, you're good?
What is what is the hardest part about marketing, or like figuring out how to get a artist more, I guess, exposure,
Mhm.
especially when like their music is not as mainstream popular as it's like against the grain? How do you get more exposure to that? How does that change the game plan of your marketing?
Man, if I had that answer, I'd be getting paid way more money. Eddie would have to pay me way more to come on here. But no, it's always just figuring out who the artist fan base is and figuring out how they respond to it. Again, as much as we are probably all music fans in some capacity, we like what we like. And so really understanding the consumer side of things is the key to marketing. Sometimes that's easier said than done just because I don't necessarily know what a 18-year-old kid in Idaho likes, but that's why there's the research aspect of it. And that's why, we need to kind of drill down. You have the advantage of something like social media where you can get instant feedback. An artist posts a song on their TikTok or Instagram, you see in the comments, that's whack or that's trash or that's fire or whatever. Like you get that feedback just because the social media platforms allow for that. But again, really just understanding what that feedback is super important. I have this conversation with my parents all the time, and they're just like, well, I hate that music. I can't stand that. And I'm just like, man, I love this song. And, then you have to also realize it's a generational thing. Like that's when I first started like not understanding the music, that's when I'm like, all right, I'm starting to get old. That was the thing that told me, because I'm just like, I used to always, as Eddie said early on, just be up on new music and finding new artists. But the fact that, I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, all right, I know this group of people loves this, but I don't get it. That's why I'm like, all right, I don't know. I might need to try something else here soon. But, for the meantime, I'm keeping up to some degree. We'll see how long that lasts. For the moment, it's good.
Awesome. Anthony, come with two back-to-back questions. Like I said, we're nearing the end. Like I said, this is the first of another bigger interview to come with you, Jory. But go ahead, ask two questions, Anthony.
Yeah, well, first, I just thought it's just so interesting how you're mentioning like everybody has their like different genre of music, because personally I try to listen to everything. But also it's kind of cool how artists have their own inspiration. So there's like Drake, who uses like little bits of like Lauryn Hill in his music, or Chris Brown, who uses like Aaliyah and all these like 90s era stars. And or it's like some use like Whitney Houston.
Eddie, he just called us old. 90s era sounded super old. That's the music we came up on. But go,
Yeah, sorry. Oops, sorry. I was born in 2000, so I'm like,
all good, man. 90s is throwback for you, so I get it. That's just music we loved. Anyway, my bad, man. I didn't mean to cut off your thought.
Oh, you're good. But so since you're like help brand like artists, what would be like some tips to help like people brand themselves on like social media or just like in life? Because branding has become more important now more than ever with social media, which has also given us a glimpse into artists and actors' lives a little bit more. So what would your tips be on that?
That's a great question. All these questions have been so thoughtful. I appreciate you all coming so clearly with the questions and being so articulate and trying to explain them. But personal branding is kind of, I think, what you're referring to. I think I do a lot of that on my day-to-day basis when I'm talking to artists, just to try to figure out who they are and what type of message they're putting out to their core audience. I think when you know your values, it makes it way easier to make decisions. It informs everything you do from a content perspective, from a visibility perspective, because there's no guessing. It's more so like, okay, I know who I am. So I know what my non-negotiables are. I know what make me happy or what I'm trying to stand for and what I'm trying to really represent. So again, just having a clear set of values that you can work from is paramount. And then I think that helps to, again, just inform everything else that you are doing. There's countless books, and I can definitely recommend a bunch of them to you if branding is something you're interested in. But there's a good one that was probably written 20 to 30 years ago at this point, called the 22 Immutable Laws of Branding, that go into pretty much a lot of what I'm saying there, where just having those core principles and values at a foundational level help you to then scale up and figure out, okay, where am I taking this side of my career, or how am I attempting to be looked at in this realm? But I think that is something that in this social media day and age has become more and more important, because we all, for better or worse at times, are brands, especially on social media. And again, positively or negatively, we are looked at in the way that we represent ourselves through social media. So unless you're just off the grid and not existent whatsoever, you need to almost be a bit particular about how and what you're putting out there. I think you alluded to it earlier on, Eddie, where you were saying just stuff related to the entertainment industry and how things may look a certain way, but they aren't necessarily that. And I feel like that happens a lot too. But that's all a decision in itself too, where, I think a lot of people are just like, oh, let me show you all the great things and forget all the other stuff that's going on in my life. But I'm going to put the great things that happen in my life out there just so you can kind of portray an image. But, I think a lot of times that ends up being a pretty hollow situation where that person still has to turn the camera off at some point and kind of go back to their regular life. So, I hold no judgment around it. It's more so just saying that, if you are a person who wants to get into any type of endeavor that involves showcasing yourself and your individualism or your brand, just being cognizant and really realizing who you are as a person is the first step.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've learned that a lot with being like getting more into like acting and artistry. You really have to have a firm like step of who you are and how you want to conduct yourself in your art and protect it in a sense. Another question or would be, what are some advice that you would give to a beginner when it comes to music and finding their voice or their sound as they're learning like instruments or singing? In my case, I guess I'm trying to do it all, but
Yeah. And I think this was something that actually reminds me of just myself early on, and a person like Eddie. Just as I've seen him evolve his career and grow the foundation, it's really just taking that first step. I like I say, you miss every shot you don't take. And that's not to say that you don't want to put some practice in there and really perfect your skill or your talent as much as possible. But I think initially it really is. My dog is going crazy. Sorry, guys. But yeah, and I think the biggest thing there is really just trying. As you get into an instrument, like I was telling my 8-year-old daughter, like nothing comes good without practice. Like you have to practice. You have to be a person who is putting their best foot forward with things, because if you're not, somebody else is. And not even to make it a competition thing, because I think we all run our own race. I think it is essential that, you do your best to put your best foot forward each and every time you decide to do things. And again, that goes back to my initial rant around just like, if you're going to do something, do it to the max. Like life is too short. If you're going to participate in something, do it. And if you're not going to give your best effort, or you don't feel passionate by it, then move on. There's something out there for you, for sure.
I love it. Now we're moving into a segment we have called Family Time. But before I do that, where we allow, like, teamwork makes the dream work, and as you already know. But before I dive into Family Time and allow some of our people behind the scenes to come up and ask questions if they would like, you articulated earlier about the importance of make sure you have a good image online and stuff like that, social media, how important that is, right? But how do you balance that with reality? Because how some people, or how some of us, let me just make it general, some of us, we can get so caught up in that the social media realm that you kind of can lose who you are in person, or lose just because you got a lot of followers don't mean you can sell out a show. I've been told, at least. Just your followers don't equate to getting butts at a show in your industry. I'm trying to, so yeah, how do you wait? I think you're popping, but you're not really. Yeah, I'm just going, think you're popping when you're not popping like you think you are. Like, yeah, if you get what I'm trying to articulate.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a great answer to that, man. Like, I think people want to portray the image that they feel is going to bring them whatever, notoriety, fame, followers, money. And I get that. And I would, again, never judge or knock somebody for it. I think at the end of the day, you gotta answer to yourself. When the app is closed, or people aren't expecting you to post whatever here and there. You got to go to bed and lay down like the rest of us. And at the end of the day, and I think you're your harshest critic, but I think that you did something, or you're doing something to its full capacity or not. And if you're content with it, then more power to you. Like, if that's the image you want to portray, and you can uphold it, and it's not hurting others in the process, then that's your business, bro. Like, that's kind of how I look at it. Like, you kind of gotta just allow people to run their own race, and you never ever know what people are going through. Is one thing I really picked up from all of this, and that that social media video, or that like, or that comment really might make their day, and that might allow them to get the confidence to go off and really explore a new talent or whatever it might be. So I'm a big proponent of just letting people live their lives and run their own race, and if they're happy, I'm happy.
I love it. So now we're in family time. Jay, as you know, like I said, you've been around for years throughout the whole Why Not journey, and one thing I emphasize with our entire team is the importance of teamwork. Like, everyone, if they try to say, "Oh, it's you," I'm like, no, I hate even having my name on stuff, because you know firsthand how many people were at these events and over the years to help this thing work. It takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a team to build a dream. So I would like to have some of my I got Mr. Philip Jones. He's like our graphic designer of the show, and you see when we thought our producer wasn't going to be able to make it, he was going to step in. So Philip, if you want to come on, and if you got any questions or anything, like I said, we want to recognize all of our family members who make this thing work. So Philip, if you have a question, please hop in.
First off, Jory, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you. So my question is, where does your work ethic come from? Is that something that you were taught growing up, or is that something that you learned about in your later years in life, when you hit 18, 19, 20, and beyond?
Great question. Really nice to meet you, Philip. I think it's been a mix of both. I feel like I've had some hard lessons. I also, again, have been fortunate enough to be around people who are hard workers in their own right. And that kind of gave me a model to look after. But, I think, you never learn more than when you fail at something, or when you hit adversity, because you're like, okay, this is what it takes to really, take this to another level, or this is what it takes to actually stand out, or, consider yourself to be successful at something. So I think my whole thing, and I've always kind of felt this way, I think innately, I don't know if I've always demonstrated it, but I've always felt that if nothing else, you should never let somebody outwork you. Talent aside, money aside, whatever it is, just be the hardest worker in the room, and that's going to be acknowledged for what it is too. Like Eddie, I played sports my whole life, and seeing athletes that make it to the NFL, or any of these other professional leagues, and sometimes they didn't have the most talent, they didn't have the best upbringing, or go to the best college, or whatever it might be, but they just outwork people. I was just watching a story about a cornerback in the NFL who, he was undrafted, and they were talking to him about like what it took for him to kind of persevere through that, and go through several rounds of tryouts, go through several cuts, and eventually make a team. And really just boiled down to him just being a hard worker. And I couldn't agree more, where I can attest to that, because I don't think I've always been the smartest or, most capable at anything I've done necessarily. But, if nothing else, I was going to leave that room or leave that interview or leave that meeting and be like, I put my best foot forward and I gave it my all effort wise, and, kind of leave the rest to God, honestly.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
Got another question, Philip? We got time for one more.
No, you can pass it if Lily want to ask a question.
Yeah, Lily, have at it. Like I said, Lily is our producer. Like I said, teamwork makes the dream work. So I'm not sure if you want to come on screen, but you're welcome. But if not, like I said, we definitely want to each show recognize our family members.
I just have a question about what has been the most impacting or exciting part of your career that you've been able to share with your family?
Ooh, that one caught me off guard. It's nice to meet you, Lily. Thank you for helping to set this up, by the way. I think, again, just the ability to share the fact that I'm passionate about something I do. Like, I grew up around a lot of people who were great role models. I also grew up around a lot of people who I felt settled just in their lives. And I could tell that was draining on them and their family and people around them. And, I really used that as a crutch in saying, okay, I can't do that. And, I can't go home at the end of the day and just hate what I'm doing. Really, if it's from a professional standpoint, 5/7 of my life, I could not hate doing that. 5 out of my 7 days out of the week, I'm at work, and, I just could not stomach not enjoying that to some extent. There's going to be days that aren't great, but, as far as just the overall picture, like, that was nothing that I was ever really willing to settle for. So again, just going back to your question, as far as like what I've been able to share with family and, those that I love, is that, I just have found a passion that I can really be inspired by, and that I can really go back to them and say, you know what, this is something that, I'm thrilled to be able to do, and then I feel inspired on a daily basis through. And, hopefully that level of energy and excitement then ruminates to them, and, helps to inspire a person like my daughter, who's 8 years old and, still figuring out what she wants to do with her life. And, I just can only hope that inspires a person like my wife too, who, has found a career that she's passionate about, and, I honestly wouldn't have it any other way.
Anything to add, Lily? Or
Oh no, thank you. I'm just thankful that you are answering my question.
Yeah, of course. I don't know if I answered it all the way through, and I kind of gave you a roundabout answer, but regardless, yeah, no, I appreciate the thoughtfulness again.
Awesome. Well, that's our family time segment. So tested it out today and it worked. So we will be adding it to the show. So thank you, Jory. But in closing, we would just like you to leave our audience with some words of wisdom, inspiration, whether it's a young Anthony out there, a young Jory, someone out there who's going through some adverse situations, like some of us have our health challenges and, so many other challenges we've dealt with. But what would you do with the young Jory what would you tell them about not giving up, or about to overcome whatever they're going through in life, and that if your dreams can come true, theirs too. And, what just speak to the young Jory out there and all the youth out there who may feel like they don't know if their dreams can come true.
Got you. I think two things. I think that the one thing I would say is to enjoy the journey. I feel like we all as people get so focused on outcomes and just the destination of where we're taking our lives that, we get so sidetracked, not realizing that we're living some of our best times right now. And regardless of where that ends, and, hopefully it ends exactly where you envision it and dream of. But, I think along the road to success, kind of take a second to stop and smell the roses, as they say. Like, really appreciate where you're at, really be present, really treasure those people who are around you, the relationships you've built, because at the end of the day, that's time spent. And, with that in mind, like, just understanding the fact that, we all never know what tomorrow brings, and really just treasuring the moment and being grateful in it is something that I would take forward as far as just anything that I take on from a endeavor standpoint. I think I would also I would also encourage people to realize that the intention is what matters. I heard a quote from a movie that I was watching here recently that I grew up on, and how you watch a movie when you're young and then you watch it again when you're old and you get something completely different from it. But it was a guy in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, who said, there are no perfect men, only perfect intentions. People are not perfect, and I think that needs to be realized, understood, and there needs to be a level of grace around that. I don't, again, as I've said several times in this conversation, have expectations for people, just because that leads to potential disappointment. Same thing for outcomes. When you expect a certain outcome, even if it comes close, you set yourself up for disappointment potentially. And that's not to say to not dream big or have lofty goals. It's really just a matter of perspective there. But if you put the right intention forward, a lot of times things will work out exactly how you want them to, and people will recognize that. I think a lot of times it's very easy to be like, all right, well, that was lucky, or this happened just because whatever reason. I think luck is luck, and we all need a little bit of it, but luck is one of those situations where you're overly prepared and you're ready for your opportunity to be met, that it kind of comes about. So continue to put your best foot forward and really have like real intention about your life and things that you're working on, because if not, we are just kind of floating around and wasting time and wasting energy, and I don't think any of us are in the business of doing that. So all that to say, maximize your time, maximize your moments, and take advantage of what God has given you.
Boom! And there you have it. The story, the inspiration, the motivation, the encouragement from the one and only Mr. Jory Carver. Anthony, do you have anything to add before we close off the show?
No. I will probably be sending an email for book recommendations and try to send it to all of you. But other than that, not really, no.
Awesome. Well, Jory, you left us speechless, which is a great thing, because I have nothing to say. And when I have nothing to say, hey, it's that time.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope that's the case. Now, I really appreciate you all having me on this. I know this is new for everybody, and you guys are really building something that feels important and worthwhile. And any way I can continue to help, just kind of let me know. I mean, I'm obviously a call away until I get Eddie to move out to LA. I'm right away. I'm definitely just a supporter of all and everything. Why not? Just because I've seen what it is, and I believe in the mission, and I couldn't help but be super ecstatic around all the growth that has happened. So continue to let me know how I can help. Wish you all the best with everything you guys are into. You all have my email address, and you can give me my phone number. We can start a chat or whatever like that too. I'm glad to help however I can, guys.
Absolutely. Nathan, want to add anything before I close out the show with our usual?
I just want to say thank you for joining us, and real quickly, if you give just one good music recommendation, an up and coming artist for the people listening at home.
Oh man, he put me on the spot. Like I said, I'm a real artist advocate, especially for the ones I'm working on. You guys are, I know Eddie's in Georgia. Where are you based at, Nathan? Did you say?
Ohio.
And Anthony, where you at?
Same place, Ohio.
Ohio, got you. Okay. Ohio, like I love to give an Ohio. I need to really study up on my Ohio artists, but one artist I'm really excited about is an artist named Pote Baby, Pote Baby. He's a up and coming hip hop artist from Savannah, Georgia. I work with him at SoundCloud. Very, very just gifted artist, has a message around all of his music, has some music to party to, has some music to think to, has some music to kind of chill to also. So I would definitely check out him and his project, and look out for some cool things that we have coming up from him. But Pote Baby is the name of the artist I would recommend checking out. He just put out a project called Turtle Crossing here a few months back that we are still working right now at the record label.
I love it. And I got a chance to go to a listening party, and it was awesome. So Pope Baby is the truth. So definitely check them out. And Philip is out in California. Like I said, if you have any events, please, Philip, you're part of the family. Please include Philip in some events. And yeah, but thank you, Jory, so much. Like I said, we truly appreciate your time. And like I said, we definitely gonna do an in-person interview in the future. But to close out our show, we would like to ask everyone to follow us on our YouTube channel and social media at YNOTT Connect and at Impact Lives Network. And we also ask you to visit our website and support in any way you can at www.ynott.org, spelled YNOTT.org. And as we conclude our show, we ask you, why not become a registered organ and tissue donor today? Let the team say, why not?
Not.
We're not sharp. Hold on. Let the team say.
You got to give a countdown.
Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Let the team say.
Why not?
Why not?
There we go. Take us out, Lily. Thank you, Jay. Salute, brother.
I am the Blacksmith Cop, and I'm here with my man Eddie Drake of the YNOTT Foundation.
I'll play a quick version.
We just want to talk to you.
Somebody's sister, a brother, father, a mother, a wife or a husband, a nephew, a cousin. They're looking for a little bit of love, hey. Somebody show them some love, hey. Why not you?
Why not?
Why not? All right, Lily, take us home. Thank you. We're out. Deuces.
Thank you, guys.